This episode contains adult themes and is not appropriate for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, the world. This is They Will Kill, a true crime podcast. I'm Zadiac.
And I'm Courtney-ic.
And we are sisters, and we're going to talk to you about some murder.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just jump into it, Court?
Yes. Look, tonight we're talking about an Ubermensch. Everybody loves an Ubermensch.
Who doesn't love an Ubermensch?
And if you don't know what an Ubermensch is, and you're like, I don't love an Ubermensch, let me tell you all about an Ubermensch. This is the case, I call this case Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, the case of Christian Bala. So on a cold December morning in the countryside of eastern Poland, three friends came upon a grisly scene while fishing together, because every grisly scene comes from fishing, or hiking, or dog walking.
Or hunting.
Or hunting. Just stay indoors. They found the half-naked and bloated body of a man floating near where they'd been fishing. The area was extremely remote, rarely visited, and so it was sort of a miracle that they'd stumbled across the body. The man had been bound by ropes around his neck and at his hands and feet, and police determined that a length of rope had been cut that had, quote, once connected his hands to his neck, bringing the man into a backward cradle, an excruciating position where the slightest wiggle would have caused the noose to tighten further.
Oh.
There was no doubt that the man had been murdered. Yeah. The body was male and showed signs of brutality and torture leading up to his death, and while they initially thought he died from ligature strangulation, as any move he made would have slowly suffocated him to death, the autopsy revealed fluid in his lungs, indicating he'd still been alive when he was thrown into the frozen water.
Where are we?
Poland. Where death is long, excruciating, brutal, and inhumane, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Holy shit.
They also found that his stomach and intestines were mostly empty, and so determined that he hadn't had anything to eat for at least 3 days leading up to his death.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Police searched missing persons reports and were able to identify the deceased man as 35-year-old Dariusz Janiszewski, who worked as an advertising director and had been missing for just under a month. Based on the brutality of the murder, police thought Janiszewski might have been the victim of a gang-style execution. Psychologists determined that the killing was extremely intentional, very personal, and likely whoever carried it out saw it as their, quote, mission. Police interviewed all of Janiszewski's family, friends, and business associates, but couldn't find even a shred of motive for his murder. He was young, well-liked, very successful, not tied to any criminal activity in any way, and was in a happy marriage. The media began referring to his death as the perfect crime, which disturbed and embarrassed police investigators. Desperate for any information that could send them in the right direction, police reached out to the popular crime show 997, who aired the case, hoping to drum up new leads, but nothing came of it. Which is very surprising.
Yeah.
Like a national television show.
Right. Well, and you know that whoever killed him didn't act alone, is my guess right now.
Well.
Ooh.
I know.
So first, okay. Well, no, continue.
No, you can ask. You can throw
Well, I'm
out
just
your
going to say
theories.
that if it is one person who did this, that's so much creepier for some reason than like a gang or a group or two people or, you know.
Right. Yes.
It's so brutal.
So brutal. The total lack of leads and complete silence following the segment on 997 caused the case to go completely cold for a year and a half. In 2003, police were conducting a routine review of unsolved murders when Detective Wroblewski became almost obsessed with solving Janiszewski's murder. He painstakingly went back over every detail, again finding no connection to organized crime or any real motive to have tortured and killed the young man. Finally, one detail jumped out to him when he noticed that Janiszewski's mobile phone had never been recovered after the discovery of his body, despite the fact that he'd had it on him when he disappeared. Knowing there's a good chance that the phone ended up at the bottom of the river or otherwise destroyed by the killer, he chased down the lead and was incredibly pleased to learn that Janiszewski's wife had kept the receipt for the phone, which included the device's IMEI number, which could be used to trace the phone if it was still in service.
Wow. I love people that keep receipts for
People who
everything.
keep receipts blow my mind.
Yeah.
I work for myself and I own a couple of companies, and all I can do to keep receipts, even though I'm legally required to do so. Also, detectives that can notice little details like that. That's amazing.
So smart. Yeah.
Wroblewski was surprised even more to find out that the phone had been sold several times and was still in use. They were able to trace the phone back through several owners to its original sale on an online auction site just 3 days after Janiszewski went missing.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
Destroy the phone. Dummy.
No, man, you can get like
$50.
$12 off that thing. Yeah, bear in mind this is 2000, so probably.
But still.
I don't know, were phones like $900 or were they like $5 in 2000? I can't really remember. Free with purchase or whatever, free with the service contract.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works in Poland. Do we have any Polish
I think I got my
listeners?
first cell phone in like 2004 or something. So
Yeah, it was 2006.
yeah. So I don't know.
I'm a Luddite, and it was pink flip phone, shiny,
Yeah.
free with contract.
Yeah. Me too. Mine wasn't pink, but
I miss it.
yeah, me too.
The person who sold the phone went by the username Chris B7, and they were able to track the account to a man named Christian Bala. Christian Bala was a Polish intellectual and businessman in his 30s who didn't seem a likely candidate for murder at first glance. Bala lived abroad, so would not be available for immediate questioning, so Wroblewski started by investigating Bala online and quickly found Bala's blog, which contained excerpts from a novel he'd recently published titled Amok, like run amok, amok. Wroblewski purchased a copy of the novel, which had an image of a goat on the cover, which is the ancient symbol for the devil, and was astonished by Bala's writing, which was, quote, not only decadent but vehemently anti-church. Quote, the main character who narrates the story is a bored Polish intellectual who, when not musing about philosophy, is drinking and having sex with women. One detective described it as, quote, half hardcore pornography and half sadistic violence. The main character is a man named Chris, who does whatever he wants, and, quote, the laws, both natural and legal, don't apply to him. So, easy, little light read. Easy read.
Sounds like a good bedtime story.
Yeah. Wroblewski made note of the fact that the narrator had murdered a female lover for no reason. So, the character, Chris.
Right.
And covered up the crime so well that he was never caught. After the murder, the main character, Chris, sold the knife he used to commit the murder on an internet auction site.
I'm rolling my eyes out of my head right now.
Your eyes are going to end up permanently backwards by the end of the story because this guy is the most eye-rollingest eye roller. He's
So
something
far,
else.
It reminds me of that the guy that lured men into his like air quotes studio, the Dexter Killer or whatever.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he had like a screenplay or something that he
Yes,
wrote, right?
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
he was trying to film like the perfect horror movie or whatever. What was it? Was that his?
So that was
motive?
his cover. Yeah, that's what he said. And I think that there was something similar. That's like where he wrote it all down somewhere. or
Right.
something.
Yes, that's how they figured it out at the end. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was all written down. Yeah.
They seem so far like very similar types of killers.
Maybe narcissists.
Oh, maybe a little taste of one.
The thing that stood out the most as he read Bala's words was the method of killing in the book. Quote, I tightened the noose around her neck. He also realized the killer's name was Chris, which is the English version of Christian, and also the name used to sell Janiszewski's phone on the auction site.
Ugh, I mean, come on, man.
I know. Wroblewski was fully aware that this could all just be a morbid coincidence, but his instinct drove him forward and Christian Bala became the main suspect. The main issue with their new suspect was that he'd left Poland in 2001, and so they had no way to apprehend or question him. While police hunted for substantial evidence to tie Bala to the crime, Wroblewski decided not to question his close friends and family so there wouldn't be a chance that they'd tip him off on the investigation. Instead, Wroblewski spent weeks studying every minute detail of Bala's novel, searching for more clues and any sign of a motive for the killing. Quote, Wroblewski kept an unofficial scorecard. Both Bala and his literary creation were consumed by philosophy, had been abandoned by their wives, had a company go bankrupt, traveled around the world, and drank too much. If I were a detective, this is what I would picture my life to be. Just like pouring over the details of the manuscript. I know it's absolutely nothing like that, but
right. Yeah.
digging for
romantic.
clues. Right? In Poland. It has to be freezing fucking cold, too, if I'm a detective. I have to constantly be drinking coffee, which every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm just going to drink coffee all day because I love coffee so much. It sounds romantic. And then even if I try to have a cup and a half, I just...
Yeah, totally feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yep.
Yep.
Same with day drinking. Like, oh, it'll be so fun. We'll just go to an orchard and have a hot apple cider. And then I'm just like, nighty night. So much for that romantic vision.
Yep.
The only additional clue he found was on the last page of the novel, where it was revealed that his motive for killing was simply blind jealousy. Unfortunately, it would be months before police would have any opportunity to interact with their strange main suspect. So in 2005, Bala's passport was flagged entering Poland, and he was immediately arrested and taken in for questioning. Detectives started with a direct line of questioning, asking him if he'd had any help killing Janiszewski, and they were stunned when he replied that he hadn't had any help and that he'd killed the man on his own.
What?
Yeah, man.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Like, just waiting for somebody to ask him.
Just come back to Poland after a little stint around the globe and done and done.
Wow. All right.
They were thrilled that he'd confessed so quickly, but just as they'd started to celebrate internally, Bala started acting very strangely. He started looking around the room, moving between various poses, picking up the telephone in the room, and asking for something to drink as he claimed he felt terrible. He asked for a doctor, and police were forced to suspend the interview that had been going so well up to that point. Can you imagine?
No.
You're just cruising along. Confession on this 5-year-old cold case,
Yeah.
and then, wooey woo, I'm crazy, I feel terrible.
I'm going to do weird things.
God. Emergency medical personnel arrived and found Bala to be perfectly well, and police were able to resume questioning. As soon as they restarted the interview, however, Bala immediately retracted his confession and refused to sign anything or speak with detectives any further. They began to suspect that he was playing with them and were devastated to not have the clear confession they believed they were receiving just moments before.
Wow, he's like a psychopath. It's like sociopath.
He's so psychopathic. maybe even an Ubermensch.
Oh, right. I forgot. That's yes.
God, so psychopath is a better term for him. Baffled him.
That's the technical term, Cory.
Yeah, so sociopath. You're like, that guy's a psychopath. No, that guy's so psychopath. Baffled and frustrated by Bala's attempts to assert control over the investigation, detectives called in one of the top forensic psychologists in the country to assess Bala and help give them insight into his behavior and potential motive. The expert said Bala had a very specific type of sociopathic narcissism, otherwise known as psychopath, and that he perceived himself to be better, smarter, stronger, and superior to all other human beings. They determined that Bala possessed a deep driving ego that made him believe that no matter what, he was being driven toward greatness, and it was just a matter of time before the world recognized his superiority and massive intellectual greatness. Gross. In other words, gross, yes. In other words, he believed himself to be an Übermensch. For those of you who don't know, an Übermensch is, quote, the ideal superior man of the future who could rise above conventional Christian morality to create and impose his own values. And it's a concept in the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche.
Mm-hmm.
Bala was described as a rabid intellectual from a very young age. He was raised by loving parents who were a construction worker and taxi driver and were proud of their son's great intellectual ability. He read extensively about Marxism, which dominated Polish literature at the time, but was more drawn to radical thinkers like Ludwig Wittgenstein. Just taking a guess there.
Yeah.
Quote, who maintained that language, like a game of chess, is essentially a social activity. He also loved everyone's favorite fun-time philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, who said, quote, there are no facts, only interpretations, and that, quote, truths are illusions, which we have forgotten are illusions. And I would like to thank Friedrich fucking Nietzsche for the current state of affairs we find ourselves in, where there are no facts, only interpretations, and truths are illusions, which we have forgotten are illusions, but are actually fucking truths. Get your head out of your ass and do your damn research, everybody.
Yeah.
Stop being Übermensches.
Seriously. I don't want to get into politics too much, but this is just like 100% Trump.
Well, that's exactly why I chose the story, yes, because it really rang true. I stumbled upon it accidentally. I was like, wow, this sounds really familiar. This sounds like maybe we are suddenly a full country full of Christian ballas who are just like,
yeah, I do what I want.
I do what I'm superior. No, bro.
No.
So I'll spare you most of the details of Bala's intellectual journey because it's super annoying. But, and there's an article in the New Yorker written by David Gran he did a beautiful job of talking about his sort of intellectual journey. And it was really interesting to read, but I'm not going to give him the fucking satisfaction of talking about him that much. Mm-hmm. But from his article, he said, quote, Bala interpreted these thinkers idiosyncratically, pulling threads here and there, and often twisting and turning and distorting them until he had braided them into his own radical philosophy. To amuse himself, he began constructing myths about himself, an adventure in Paris, a romance with a schoolmate, and tried to convince friends that they were all true. Quote, he would tell these tall stories about himself. Lothar Rosinski, who is a former good friend and classmate, says, quote, if he told one person and that person then told someone else who told someone else, it became true. It existed in the language, Rosinski adds. Bala even had a term for it. He called it mytho-creativity. Jerk-off motion, jerk-off motion.
This guy.
Before long, friends had trouble distinguishing his real character from the one he had invented. In an email to a friend, Bala said, quote, if I ever write an autobiography, also known as autobiography, it will be full of myths. Good for you.
Ugh.
That's also just called a story.
Yeah, right?
He studied philosophers who pushed all the boundaries of decency and morality to, quote, break free of what he deemed to be the hypocritical and oppressive, quote, truths of Western society, including taboos on sex and drugs. Like most narcissists, some of his friends thought he was juvenile and ridiculous, and others were mesmerized by his philosophies and behavior. He was very popular, but also extremely confrontational, so had as many enemies as friends. He was very good at charming women and had a bit of a legendary status as a playboy.
Gross.
He also reminds me of my favorite cult leader, Keith Raniere.
Raniere, yep. Just thinking that too, yes.
Yes, because he says all the same sorts of things, like, if it's only rape if you perceive it to be, and crazy bullshit like that, right?
Yes.
That's also why I chose this one, because my whole world is just teeming with narcissistic cult leaders everywhere I look. In 1995, while he was finishing up his studies, Bala married his high school sweetheart Stasia, and they had one son. He got the highest marks possible in his university courses and wanted to enroll in a PhD program, but struggled to support his family and so started a cleaning business instead. Bala was a terrible businessman and an equally lousy husband, having cheated on Stasia frequently as well as expressing narcissistic rage, And so by 2000, he'd filed for bankruptcy and his marriage was over. Friends reported that Bala was allowed to do anything he liked, but Stasia was forced to stay home and raise their son, or he'd fly into a jealous fury.
Gross.
Yeah.
I mean, really, he just, like, ticks all the boxes for all of... Like, I can just think of so many
Yes.
dickheads just like him.
Yes. He's just a really trumped up version
Yeah.
of so
Yeah,
many
like
people.
Josh Powell, like, on and on.
Yeah, narcissists. After his divorce, he traveled through Asia and the U.S., teaching English and scuba diving and working on his debut novel, Amok. I know. I'm just going to go teach scuba diving. Of course you are, you terrible father. So after Bala withdrew his confession, police had to build a proper case, having only the fictional story and loose ties to the internet auction site to go on. They looked into his past and his failed business and marriage and learned that he'd remained preoccupied with his ex-wife to the point of obsession. He was reported to have followed her to a bar and threatened to kill she and, quote, all her men. So assuming anyone she dated.
Right.
When word of the arrest got out in the media, Bala's book, Amok, sold out nationwide, and the country was captivated by the idea that he'd turned his life and crime into a novel. Everyone was shocked to learn that the novel wouldn't be allowed to be entered into evidence, and the case would have to be based on hard evidence alone. They specifically chose to omit the novel as Bala was planning to use the defense that everything the case was based on was a work of fiction, and he intended to humiliate the court by insisting they'd targeted him because of a story and nothing more. Which makes me wonder if he was actually brilliant enough to, A, write the novel to use that as a defense, and B, write the novel to be famous.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did he actually commit this perfect crime in his efforts to be an Ubermensch? Like, did he... You know what I mean? Did he set that all up that way? Or was it just a sort of perfect storm of narcissism?
Right. Like how many steps ahead in his chess match was he or whatever?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he'd studied the book for months, Detective Wroblewski came to terms with the fact that it had been nothing more than a red herring and focused again on finding actual evidence to tie Bala to the murder. Bala also made claims that he'd been kidnapped and beaten by the police when they'd initially apprehended him, and enlisted one of his girlfriends to start a defense committee on his behalf to help spread the word of the great injustices being committed against him. So he said that he got off the plane, they kidnapped him, like beat the shit out of him, brought him to the woods, dug a hole, threatened him, etc., which didn't happen.
No.
And then he was claiming all these things, filed cases against the detectives, got his girlfriend to, I don't know what a defense committee is, but I essentially think it's like a, just an online campaign on his behalf. And he had all these followers and all these people who were like writing letters and like, you can't imprison someone because he wrote a story and on and on. Yeah, it got really out of control. Detectives learned that on the day of his disappearance, Janiszewski was seen taking a call on his cell phone in his office, and they were able to determine that the call had been made from a payphone just up the road. As it turned out, the payphone he'd called from required the user to insert a phone card to make a call, and all of the cards were registered to the caller, and all of the phone calls were recorded in a log.
What?
So,
God.
yes. So to use
phones are breaking the case of like wide open.
Yep. So it's these phone booths, whatever they're called. Phone booths required like a prepaid phone card to use them. You inserted it in the phone, and it was registered to you.
Crazy.
And they recorded every single time the card was used and who it belonged to. Duh, dude.
Duh. God.
No. Police were able to retrieve the log of everyone who'd made a call from the payphone that day. Among the callers and calls from that day, they were able to determine that Christian Bala had made several calls to his friends, family, and, unsurprisingly, he'd also made the call to Janiszewski that day. Police dug a little deeper and were also able to confirm that Bala's ex-wife Stasia had carried out a brief affair with Janiszewski.
Was there a show on this?
Not that I have seen.
We can take this out. It's just so familiar.
Yeah, this is one I was very surprised because it's such an interesting story that nobody had done it, but I think it's because of all the Polish names, and I would like to formally apologize to any Polish listeners for absolutely fucking butchering your names. I have phonetic spellings all throughout my pages.
No, I'm proud of you for trying.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I found a UK program on it, but other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just familiar. I don't know why it's familiar, but
because he sucks and he reminds you of so many people who suck so much.
Yeah.
This is another good case of where my empathy just completely runs out. Like this guy just purely sucks. He's just ego. I think that that's the thing that really gets me is when it's just your ego. It's not trauma. It's not jealousy or something, like if you're just a shitty guy.
Yep.
This guy is the shittiest. Then, one of Stasia's friends came forward and admitted that she'd told Bala about the affair and that he'd grilled her to give him every detail that she had about their relationship, as well as who Janiszewski was, where he worked, where he lived, etc. Detectives knew they still lacked physical evidence to tie it all together. They sift through all of the belongings Bala had left behind his parents' house when he'd left the country and struck gold when they found a notebook among the items. In the notebook, they found a detailed list of information about Janiszewski's company, a pen with his company's logo on it, and even one of his personal business cards. This is my Janiszewski file.
Right. Better keep that pen. It's smooth.
Yeah. Bala had maintained the entire time that he'd never heard of or met Janiszewski, which was looking less and less likely based on the mounting evidence against him. And the fact that he had shit all over his house with Janiszewski's name on it and his company's name on it.
Right.
Also, if you'll remember that the Polish crime show 997 did an episode about the murder, and detectives went back and combed through all of the activity on the series' website. They found multiple comments on the website from foreign countries, specifically Asia and the US. And you'll be surprised to learn that people in Asia and the US aren't watching a lot of Polish crime shows.
I mean, I do tune into 997, as it comes up.
As you all can tell, I'm fluent in Polish.
Right.
It's basically my first language. I understand it. I speak it fluently. So the dates of the comments, of course, lined up with when Bala lived in each of the countries where the comments were made. To top it all off, one of Bala's friends came forward to give a very damning testimony. He claimed that at a New Year's Eve party in 2000, Bala had shouted to him that he'd already killed one of Stasia's lovers and that he'd committed the murder with a rope. Can you imagine? Just like, parties! They're playing like the Black Eyed Peas. Like,
right.
Bro, I totally killed one of her lovers with a rope! 5, 4, 3... God. Detective Robleski's hunch had turned out to be correct. Bala was simply jealous of his ex-wife's lover, so he kidnapped, tortured, and murdered the poor man to get revenge. In 2007, Christian Bala was convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. So in the end, the ego of an exceptionally smart man allowed him to make several very fucking stupid mistakes, and he's now paying the consequences.
Good.
And then I wrote, Ubermensch? More like Boobermensch. And that is the story of the biggest baby man of all time, Christian Bala.
Oh, he can go to hell. That guy.
Can you believe that shit?
Yuck. No.
I mean, to be that smart, and I mean, by all accounts, he was brilliantly smart. He was very, very, very smart, had an insane intellect. But not smart enough to not sell the phone on the auction site, not use a payphone with a pre-registered pay card, not leave a detailed list of Janiszewski's company's goings-on.
No, I don't understand it. I guess, I don't know, he's just so full of himself that I think
so full of himself.
Not a big deal. Like, nobody will ever suspect me.
Yes. And the psychologist, and even coming back to Poland, like he left in 2001, the media called it the perfect crime. They wouldn't have intercepted him. They wouldn't have ever been able to get him if he had just stayed away. The case would have just gone cold. But instead he came home and the psychologist was like, yeah, he really believes that everything he does is a movement toward greatness. So even if it's getting caught for committing this perfect crime, it's telling the world how fucking smart he is. And he's okay with that.
Gross. Can you imagine? I just can't fucking imagine.
No.
Well, good work, Court.
Thanks.
That was a good one.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Makes me want to dig more into that, all of that, like Ubermensch.
You don't. You really don't. I know. It's interesting to read the New York article, but my eyes started glazing over, not because it was poorly written, but just because they were behind in the back of my head, like yours were previously when you rolled them so hard.
Yes.
I mean, and I like to think about morality and things that are social constructs, and are they, is this something that we should abide by, or is it something that's been put in place to control us? I think about that constantly. I think it's come up a lot lately with the way we're policed and our governing and gender and, on and on and on. Like, there's so many things you can think about and question and say, wait, why, religion, all those things, and be like, is this really true? Or did somebody just invent this a long time ago to keep me under their control? So in a sense, I agree, and I'm really interested in it. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I think for me, the line is when it becomes about the one person. So the idea of Ubermensch means superhuman. Like, one dude is so fucking smart and so superior and da-da-da. And I'm like, gross. Mm-hmm. But when I think about it as sort of a freedom of society and like a bettering and a enlightening of people, that's really interesting. I can think about that forever and ever and kind of pick it apart and get lost in the nuance. But all that Nietzsche, blah, blah, I
think what interests me about it, like picking it apart so you can recognize it quickly and reject it.
Yes.
Especially sitting here now with the president that we have.
Yes.
Like what would have happened if, as a society, we were able to recognize him decades ago as who he is and be like, oh, no, you are a garbage human.
Yeah, you're a
con man.
Crazy con man narcissist. Just to the...
So you can stay in Manhattan.
Like... We're going to put all the narcissists in Manhattan.
Well, that's just where he was.
Who was it they wanted to put all the gays on an island? Was it Mitt Romney? It was earlier than that.
Santorum or...
No, he was Mormon. Oh, dang. It was early Obama time. Anyway, somebody wanted to put the gays on an island, and I was like, yeah, gay island. Yeah, get me on it.
It's funny. I was thinking about that the other day for some reason. I don't know. Probably just thinking about politics and remembering us being like, please, can I go to Gay Island?
Yes, I would love to go to Gay Island. Gay Island, it will just gentrify Gay Island, and then everybody's going to move to Gay Island after the gays get... and then it's just going to flip the shit, and Homeboy's going to be pissed because all the suburban housewives are going to move to Gay Island because the gays made it so pretty. Yeah, because that's how it works every single time.
Please.
Yep.
I'm ready.
It's a fatal flaw in your plan, Republican Tea Party senator, or whoever the fuck you were. Gay Island is just going to become the United States because gays get there first every single time. That's anyway, so narcissists in Manhattan. And look, that's a joke. Manhattan is my second home. I love New York with all my heart.
So sorry.
What was that? Was that like a Christian hymn? Like a... Oh, what was that? Oh no! No!
Oh, it's because you sent me the TikTok video of the frogs. And I guess the way that TikTok runs on your browser or whatever, it just like keeps playing videos. And I went to go figure out who the politician was, and the song was playing in the background.
It sounded like contemporary Christian jams.
I hope it was.
Anyway, yes, I don't think that Manhattan is for narcissists for 1 second. I mean, there are narcissists on the island of Manhattan. They are everywhere. But, yeah, I think about it all the time. I think about, it feels very dangerous because it feels like thought crimesy to identify people with personality disorders. But I do feel more and more strongly that it's just unfortunate that we can't have two judicial systems, one for people who have experienced trauma and neglect and abuse and commit crimes out of desperation, and then just one for the bad people, just one for the ego giants and fucking narcissists and sociopaths, because they're completely different things, right?
Yes.
Completely different.
Completely different.
And I do think you can become a sociopath or a psychopath because of trauma. And that's where the gray area gets, that's where my theories fall apart pretty fast, because then what? But I don't know. That's why I haven't submitted my plan to Congress. It's the only reason.
That's why you're not the head of the
Because it's
DOJ.
Written. Yes, it's written. It's cited.
You're ready.
Been vetted by teams of lawyers, panels. It's there's lots of Roman numerals in it, and it's bound beautifully, professionally. I haven't figured that part out about how when trauma causes psychopaths, then what? And that's just, I just wrote that at the very end with a big question mark.
That's right. And the shrugging shoulders emoji.
Placeholder. It says placeholder on it. I don't know.
So it was Louis Gohmert.
What? No. I've never even
says.
Heard of Louis Gohmert.
Texas Representative Louis Gohmert. He said, "Strand gaze on an island and see what happens." They will make it beautiful.
I'll tell you what happens.
Beautiful house plants.
Beautiful decorations, yeah. Tasteful interiors. That's what'll happen.
Yep. Anything else?
No, I think we have some shouty outies.
Yeah, let's do a quick promo.
Oh, yeah. That's a shouty outie of sorts.
So we're going to play a promo for Bloody Murder.
Yeah.
Which is an Australian podcast hosted by Tara and Barney.
Love it. Love it.
Isn't it
Love
adorable?
everything about it.
I do too.
Yep.
So take a quick listen.
Do it.
Is listening to true crime podcasts all the time getting you down, but you just can't stop?
Try listening to Bloody Murder.
We're an Australian comedy true crime podcast focusing on some of the lesser-known murder cases from Australia and around the globe.
We use black comedy as a means to tell horrifying true crime stories.
But our humour is respectful and never at the expense of victims or their loved ones. Bloody Murder has been nominated for 4 Australian Podcast Awards.
We've been going for over 3 years now.
So we have loads of episodes for you to binge.
You can listen to Bloody Murder on Spotify and any of your favourite podcatchers.
All right, what else do we got?
What else? Should we talk about Seduced? I watched it all.
Yeah, we should give Seduced a quick shouty outie because it's about an Ubermensch as well.
Yeah. And Courtney, I think, mentioned maybe last episode to watch it, right?
I think I did, yeah.
And I hadn't.
Val ain't got shit on Seduced.
Right. And so I turned it on and number one, hello, what? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Because you think you know about it and then you don't really know about it. Just how awful that guy is.
Yeah, you know the framework of the experience that these people had. You know that it was not cool. You know, it was structured as a executive success program. You know that there was branding and sexy stuff on some level, but yeah, they don't cover anything.
Right. Yeah, and watching it because it's I would have guessed that it's like directed, produced. I didn't look into it, but by the mom and daughter that it features.
I would assume so too.
And so I was thinking a lot about what happens when a story is told by not just a victim, but also a perpetrator. Like she perpetrated a lot of the crimes. And like I was happy to get more of the insight for sure, because it's way worse than I realized.
So exponentially worse.
And the fact that he was
horrifying.
Like militarizing these women, basically, like getting them ready to do whatever he wanted.
Correct.
Whenever he wanted. Like, where was that headed? Was he going to mass suicide? Like, what was...
Right.
So I thought that all of that was really interesting. And then also, like, part of it felt sort of, I don't know what the word is, like not forced necessarily, but like
It was very scripted. They were definitely
Yeah.
reading from a script at times.
Right.
Yeah. All their interstitial stuff. It'd be like, and then I was like, I don't know what. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was definitely scripted.
And so, like, is that what felt awkward? Was the scripting, or, I felt like some of that fell flat
Yeah.
with India, and, who clearly, she was like 20 when she started
Yes.
with this awful organization and was clearly a victim.
Yep.
But I kind of thought about that, like, what do we do when the person telling the story is a victim and part of it too?
Totally. Well, I think there's got to be some kind of compartmentalization going on too, right? Where you're so deeply traumatized and then traumatized into traumatizing other people, which is like such a compounding of trauma that I find that a lot, like when watching things about people who were part of like the LDS church, like the fundamentalist LDS and things like that. And when they talk, you're like, how are you just talking about that so calmly?
Right.
Children of God and stuff like that. It's just really shocking. But I think that that's probably a side effect of the trauma to a certain degree. And in her case, where she didn't really have like a young adulthood, like you mentioned,
Right.
she was so young when she went in. And then is she just unable to, really know how to react to things because she didn't ever get to learn,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I
It was
think
all
she's-
normal, so normal to her. She would know
Right.
better.
Yeah, she's figuring out how she feels about things because she literally was not allowed to feel her own feelings for 7 years or however long.
So crazy. And what about the girl that was in the Children of God cult as a child and then just jumps right into Nexium? That poor thing, man.
She's like, this seems great. This seems better.
You'd think that if you get out of the Children of God,
I know.
you just don't ever get to be in a group setting after that. Like,
I know.
no
Poor
churches, no
No.
wellness groups, no.
Unless it just felt comfy, it's like when that's
Yeah,
all
I'm sure
you
there was
know.
part of it. Yes.
Also, here's the thing that I've just been screaming from the rooftops. What's the co-founder's name? Salzman.
Salzman, not her
Not
daughter's
Laura.
Lauren.
Lauren, yeah, who got like 475,000 years, and she got like
Sarah? No,
something
like that. Yeah.
yeah. They none of the documentaries really talk about her at all, and that is just the craziest thing to me. How does she not get more airtime? How do we not know more about her? Who is she?
Right. Well, and how did she? I'm curious about her relationship with her daughter too. So she
Right.
brings her daughter into this,
Right.
and then her daughter does more time and
Right.
like commits more crimes. And how do you just like, here you are, daughter, here's this totally fucked up bullshit.
Right. That made
Enjoy.
me infinitely wealthy and crazy rich and powerful. Yeah, I feel like they just glossed right on over her in both cases.
I felt the same.
And maybe she just did a better job of protecting herself and her privacy. So I don't know. Or maybe, and she had to have some kind of plea deal to get less time than her daughter as a co-founder. I don't know. It
was there any indication that she was part of DOS? Maybe that's what kept her separate.
Right. So she just did the
She
ESP
did the
or
other
whatever
stuff.
bullshit.
Yeah. And stayed completely away from DOS.
That's a good point. They didn't clarify it very well. Regardless, she was all bed with the con man, so I don't know. But yeah, it's so interesting. It's really kind of taken over my mind, and now I just relate everything to it, including our presidency. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we are actually all experiencing this kind of cult experience.
Yes.
And we need to
really are.
deprogram people who are, and I think that there are different levels of Trump support, but the ones who are full flag, full fucking regalia down DC, full time they've been indoctrinated. And I don't say that, it's not hyperbole. I am not trying to be, not exaggerating. I really feel like he has amassed a cult, and it's terrifying.
Yep. It really is.
And I feel like
if you
those
think
people are going to step back in 10, 20 years and be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, probably not. Unfortunately, unless we get some like heavy duty deprogrammers across the country. No, I was thinking today I was on a walk and noticing that people, not as many, but they're still around here, like flags, Trump flags and whatnot flying.
Right.
And like, what other president has ever caused people to like
Exactly.
buy flags.
Exactly.
And wave, like put the flags up.
Merchandise. Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy. You know, I'm so stoked about Biden presidency. I cannot even tell you, but I'm not flying a fucking Biden flag.
No. A giant ass
You know?
flag. I know there's
No.
a barn that I pass by in Michigan pretty frequently, and they still have this, I don't know, 15 by 20 Trump 2016 flag hanging from their barn. And then next to it is just sort of like a little subscript. They just put a little 2020. It's just like, still on board. Don't necessarily need to
Yeah.
invest in another humongous flag, but
I know. And I wish I could have an honest conversation, like walls down or whatever. Like, tell me why. Like, what is it?
oh, I have
really?
had the conversation. Yeah.
But do they like give you things that are legitimate? Anything I've ever heard, it's just sort of like, yeah, that's not true.
Well, and that's the thing, because it's not true. So it's like watching
Yeah.
the Nexium documentary. It's hearing what you want to hear, and just, you know, this, I'm going to give you the thing. I
Right.
don't know what the thing is, but I am going to give it to you. And
Right.
you can trust me, and it's going to happen. And,
So crazy.
you know, Keith Raniere had 5 billion lawsuits and all kinds of criminal charge and all kinds of accusations, and he'd been like raping and torturing these women for years, and everybody who was ever close to him abandoned him and then spoke out against him, and his cult was still like, yeah, it's
dancing
them, it's
outside
not
of
you.
his prison windows and shit. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's that. It's just, I'm going to give you the thing, and people buy in. And when you use that language, that rhetoric, and you get people so riled up and you get them so entrenched in it, it's when it becomes a different thing.
Reality. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, check it out, y'all.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Woof. Big deep thoughts over here.
Yeah, because usually we just talk about chilled out stuff.
I was like, chip chili. I want that.
Oh yeah, some kind of Frito pie.
Shit, yeah, man.
I was going to go get salads for dinner. I always say salads when I'm recording this, but Laura and I always have plans to eat salads after the podcast, and I'm so hungry by the time it's done. I get
Who wants to eat a
Frito
salad
pie
after this? Yeah.
chili mac is what I really want now that I'm talking about it.
Man. You know what I had yesterday?
What?
I cooked. The boys wanted chili, my children. So they had chili. They eat at like 3 p.m. because they're children. But after they went to bed, I made tater tots, and I put chili on my tots.
Yes! Yes!
It was so good.
I'm mentally holding you over my head.
Oh my god,
That sounds
it was so good.
amazing. Fuck.
Yep. You know what else is amazing?
Our shouter outers.
Our
Our
shatter
Patreon
outers.
supporters. Oh, speaking of which,
patrons.
really quick, we're about to hit 100,000 downloads.
Yes, and 100 patrons.
And 100 patrons. So we're going to do a giveaway, but it's just a regular, we're actually just going to give away money, and you don't have to do anything.
No.
Here's our idea. Because it's the holidays and it's fucking COVID, etc., we know that there are a lot of people who need help. So we're going to give away 4 $100s.
That's so many dollars.
Yes, it's 4 $100s, as it turns out. So if we'll put this on Instagram, but you don't have to be on Instagram. You can just email us. If you know somebody in your life who could use $100, let us know and kind of give us a quick idea of their scenario, and we'll just pick 4. It's going to be really fucking hard to pick 4. I don't know if that, I was thinking a lot about that today. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that, but
Well, maybe we could also, like, if we get just the overwhelming number of people that need help, then we can see if there's other people that want to, like, start
I was
our
thinking
own
about that too.
angel tree or
Yeah,
whatever. You know,
yes.
something like that. So if you're interested in helping families that need it, let us know. We can kind of maybe do, like, you can adopt a family or something for the holidays.
Totally. Yep. I was thinking the exact same thing. So we'll definitely give away 4 $100s, and we just want to hear, we don't need their names or anything like that, but just what's their circumstance? Why would this be very helpful for them right now? and we'll pick them, and then we'll figure out how to Venmo or whatever, get the money over
and it
to
could
them.
also be you. It could be someone you know, or you
yeah.
yourself. If
Yes.
you really need it, let us know.
100%, 1,000,000%. So
Yeah, and we can only do this because of our patrons. You guys, it's been amazing. Courtney and I were talking about what we wanted to do to celebrate 100,000 downloads, and I was like, I think we have like $200 in our Patreon account. And then I looked, and it was like more than that.
a lot more than that. Yeah. Yes.
So it adds up quickly, and we want to give it back. So
Yeah.
thank you for that support. And if you want to join us over there, do it. Once we hit 100, we're going to do some sort of special
Party
party episode. We haven't quite nailed it down yet, but
It's going to be
we're just waiting.
so cool. It's going to be like kind of like that thing that I'm submitting to Congress. The bill about reforming the judicial system. It's going to be just like that.
All right. So I want to thank amazing patron Amy K.
Yay! Amy K stands for ketamine. Nope. I was thinking special K because of the word special, and that led me to, you're not ketamine. You are cupcake with a K.
That's right. Also, big thank you to Tracy C.
Tracy C. Probably means Tracy Courtney. So,
yeah, I'm sure it does.
Obviously good.
Big thank you to James B.
Yeah, James B. for bodacious.
And last but not least, thank you so much to Mel P.
Melpy.
Mel
I would
P.
just call myself Melpy because
That's right. That's adorable.
it is like
Just like you, Mel.
Just like you. And I'm not going to say which of our Patreon supporter has this last name, but we do have a Patreon supporter with the last name McCorkle. So add it to the list. McCorkle.
We love you.
Damn it. We love you and thank you. And whoever left us a review recently that said we mentioned jumpers a lot.
Oh my God.
That wasn't us.
I don't think it was. So
I
if
don't
you're
think-
listening still.
I don't think they are
your
because I don't think they were maybe.
No, they liked it. They said it was good. It could be great or something. But yeah, somebody left us a review and said we said jumpers so much that
It was annoying.
they had to look it up.
And then we had to look it up, which I'm
So-
assuming meant we're referring to sweaters in the UK.
Right.
But if I had
I
to
don't
look,
know. Because I was like, have I ever said the word jumper in the podcast?
no, I would
I don't
not.
think so.
I wouldn't. I actually struggled over using the word university in my story today because we don't say university here. We don't say
Right.
I go to university. So I was like,
Right.
am I trying too hard to say? So that's what my thought process would be. If I wouldn't say he was wearing a jumper. I would say he was wearing a
But
sweater.
now I'm dying to know like what podcast says jumper so much. that
Constantly.
It's like enough to write a bad review about it.
Is there...
And maybe it's us and we just don't remember.
Oh, this is getting very complicated. Oh my God.
Anyway,
Thank you guys. If you want to leave a review for our actual podcast or a different, you could leave a review for our podcast on a different podcast. Whatever.
Let's just
It's
do it.
There are no rules. It's a new
No.
world. We do
We can
whatever
do
the
what
fuck
we
we
want.
want. Ubermensch that shit. Just superiority it up. Yes, please rate, review, subscribe. It's so fun when we get them. Even when they're not for us, it's still fun.
No, it was actually more fun to read that and be like, wait, I don't think that's ours.
Sadie and I texting back, what? I don't... It's like a mystery. It's like me being a Polish detective in the freezing cold, scouring over the internet for...
Let's dig deep into this review
4.5
and
minutes.
really figure out who it... I'm going to start listening to all of the true crime podcasts.
Yep. Get to
Figure
the
out
bottom
who
of
it
it.
is.
If
I'll let you
anybody
know.
knows of a true crime podcast that mentions jumpers a lot, please.
Just let us know.
Please. Also, if you want to hang out with us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, we are at They Will Kill. And our website is also They Will Kill. And our email is theywillkillpodcast@gmail.com.
.com. Short for .com.
No, it's all spelled out. DUHCOM.com.
.com. Thank you so much to AJ Bergantz for our music.
Thank you so much.
We love you.
We love you all.
And remember,
Don't be an Ubermensch. It's
For sure, man.
fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Be a boobermensch. Don't be an Ubermensch. Be a boobermensch.
Who doesn't love boobs?
Some people, but they can be Ubermensches. Or they can be doob.
I'll let you sit with that.
Ubermensch. Lubermensches.
There you go. Luber benches.
Well, because they're... Anyway, I'm not going to... Anyway, I'm going to explain that. Maybe homophobic joke. I'm maybe being a homophobic. I love you guys.
Love you guys. Thanks for listening.
And I love boobs and people who don't love boobs. I love you all.
Me too.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.